You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box. What on earth is he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. Oh, feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
Faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
Hey there, Whovians. Welcome to another episode of Earth Station Who. We got a good one for you. You know, with the 60th anniversary special coming up real soon, and, you know, we've been hearing rumors about dates and times and stuff. The very first of the specials is called The Star Beast, and it's actually based off of a comic. And we're going to actually go back to 1980, and we are going to look at the comic strip that it ran through and talk about the story of the Star Beast. And, you know, this might be spoilers for the episode because the characters, multiple of them, are going to be appearing in the 60th anniversary special. So we are going to spoil the hell out of this. So just be prepared that we are going to be talking about this tonight. So we got a great crew, though, to talk all about it. And thank you all for joining. Let's introduce everyone. Ciarán, you're back.
Yes, hello. It's lovely to be back. Thank you so much.
Oh, not a problem. It's great to have you, my friend. And, of course, our regulars, Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
And Ms. Mary Ogle. How are you?
Hey, everybody. It is fantastic to be here.
You know, it's interesting to talk about this one because I remember reading this probably, I think the first time I read it was 85, 86. And, you know, so I've, you know, founded the issues of Doctor Who magazine and the weekly that, you know, it appeared in originally at, you know, a used bookstore. They had a whole pile of them. And it was just like, I felt like at the time I was in Vegas and I struck gold, you know, type thing. It was just like, it was awesome. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about this. And Ciarán, the reason I don't mention your last name, because your last name's Moffatt, I don't want people to think you have a connection.
No.
Or something.
Yes. Hello. Yes, I'm Ciarán Moffatt, and yes, I'm not. I have two T's in my name, not one. I genuinely like Stephen Moffat's stuff, but I'm in a minority apparently.
I love Stephen Moffatt, so yay for Ciarán.
So we're fine with it. So yeah. It's going to be interesting because, you know, Stephen, as we like to say, made us scared just to go to the bathroom. So it's okay. You know, or that or go to Home Depot, you know, the hardware store. It's like, what's going to attack me next? So, yeah, it's going to be fun to talk about this. But we do have some Doctor Who news. Most of it's rumor, though. Most of it's rumor. And knowing the BBC, they will be announcing these things as guaranteed the day after we talk about them.
Right.
You know, so that's the story of it. The big first rumor that I actually heard is we're getting Doctor Who's 60th anniversary special, The Star Beast, sooner than later, actually. The rumor going around is broadcast date of Saturday, November 11th. And then the other two will be the following Saturdays, ending on the 25th, I think, which will be real interesting.
They're not going to tell us what the dates are until I've been saying
like
this
the
for
day
months.
Before.
It'll be 1 week. They'll drop a trailer saying Doctor Who is coming out next weekend. Be ready, just to make everyone go insane. Because if people know when the date is, they're going to. I don't know. I think they're kind of going to lose steam. But I think they've kept the momentum by not telling anyone when it's going to actually air.
No, I agree with you completely, and it's going to be interesting to see because, you know, I have a couple of friends who have sources, as they'd like to say, and that's where they got the dates from. And one of their sources works at Disney Plus. So that's you know, but he's saying he can't confirm anything type thing. Because that would make sense, though. because I can't see them going into December with the 3 specials,
Well, they're doing it over 3 nights.
Well, that's the other thing. They could do it 3 nights. They could do it on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right around the anniversary.
I think it makes more sense to space them out.
Yeah.
Well, especially if they've got, because we're getting a Christmas special this year as well. So you don't want to leave too much gap between. I think basically what they're doing is they're leaving it right until the last second to tell us when it is. And from that point, I don't think we'll ever really have to wait too long before more Doctor Who and more content comes out from them. So. Oh,
very much so. No, I agree completely with that. And that's the interesting thing. I think we're about to hop into a new golden age of Doctor Who, at least, being able to watch, Doctor Who more regularly instead of having to wait, a year and a half between seasons
or more.
Exactly. Yeah. So
this must be, I can only imagine this is driving the people from Disney Plus crazy, because Disney likes to promote things well in advance. They're not usually ones to be like, hey, we're just showing it next week, pop surprise. They really like promoting things a lot. And Disney, man, they've had a rough year. They can use a win. I agree
completely with that. I do.
I don't know. I imagine, I don't know. I doubt they're on pins and needles, but I mean, they've invested a lot in this, and I imagine they hope to get a lot more in return. So yeah, I don't know if they have much control over the release schedule. But I can't imagine that they'd want everything to be released all at once, consecutively. It's not something that they've done before, on consecutive nights, but that's not to say that they can't do something different. But I'm pretty sure I can't see it airing on Disney Plus before it airs on BBC. So
no,
that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
No. We only got that once, and that was the 5 Doctors, and we're aired here first.
But we haven't even heard anything, if they're going to, what else is going to be on Disney Plus as far as, new Who, classic Who, anything else related. We have no idea. We still got nothing on that. And then we're talking about it's less than a month away.
Yeah.
Yeah. They announced yesterday that all of classic Who and new Who is going to be put on BBC iPlayer in the UK, which is a big deal. That means anyone who lives in the UK and has a television license will be able to watch Doctor Who for free, all of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Previously, it was on BritBox.
What did they say? What is the tagline they just released for that? Over 800 hours of content.
Yes,
yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, because it's all the spin-offs, all of the Doctor Who confidentials and stuff. It's pretty cool. You'd kind of want Disney Plus to have something like that if they're getting Doctor Who, especially here in Australia. Classic Doctor Who was taken off BritBox, so we're waiting to hear where it's going to end up. I know it's on BritBox in the US because I use my VPN to watch it, but so it's finding out what Disney Plus is going to do. But we're in a unique situation where most stuff that comes out on Disney Plus is owned by Disney, whereas this is a really interesting mix of rights where the BBC holds the rights. Disney Plus has put up a huge amount of money for it, but all creative control is held by Wolf Studios Cardiff, and controlled by Russell T Davies and Jane Tranter. Mm-hmm. So it's complicated.
Oh, very much so. And that's interesting too, because, I'm ready to geek out. I open Disney Plus on my TV and all of a sudden I hear a TARDIS sound, or something like that. And it's like, oh, it's here. Something exciting like that would be amazing.
What are they going to do with the logo? How every new show, when it comes on Disney Plus, there's a logo for the sweep and the plus. What are they going to do? A TARDIS going past or something?
Oh, that would be amazing.
I mean, that's the thing. I know that Disney likes to do all sorts of things like that. So I can't, it must just drive them crazy because they're not able to promote it yet. Because I would imagine, it's a month out and they're probably on pins and needles going, damn, we want to say something.
Because we're recording this as of October 10th. So, literally, if it's going to start on the 11th, It's a month from tomorrow.
It's a month away, yeah.
So that's just craziness.
And right now Disney Plus has their big show right now that's new is Loki, which is all about time travel and displacement and travels in space and time and everything like that. And it's the perfect like tie-in to Doctor Who, especially for those people who are not as familiar. So I mean, it's a great way to like jump from one to the other. And I'm wondering how they're going to pull it off.
Yeah, because Loki's been hopping through time and space right now.
Exactly.
And wouldn't it be funny if he just warped into the TARDIS and the Doctor's just like, what? What?
What?
And then Loki disappears.
I mean, the cross promotion, possibilities are endless.
Oh,
so.
Of course. So, as we like to say, watch this space. When we know, you guys will know, of course. And we've been, on pins and needles with it. So it should be tons of fun to see what happens with that. An interesting thing we've been hearing about is some rumors. We've been talking about spin-offs, and we've been talking about, stuff for quite some time. We actually did a panel at DragonCon, and we also did a panel at Pensacon on that, what about Doctor Who and such. And we also did at Concaster Burris, if I remember correctly, right, Mary?
Did we do it at Concaster Burris? I'm not sure we did.
Oh.
But we talked about it. We talked about it in a different,
Exactly.
in a sort of general panel.
Well, we talked about it when we were talking, doing our big panel at the end of the.
We
We
did.
were talking about like what's the future going to bring for Doctor.
We talked about rumors. Yeah.
Exactly. And the biggest rumor, of course, had been that there's going to be a unit spinoff, which is
still out there.
Yes, and it's becoming more and more closer to possible reality. Another one that I actually had heard recently was about the Paternoster game, possibly getting one on, but that would be going on to the BBC Children's Channel. And I don't want to see a Doctor Who spinoff on the Children's Channel again. I think it should be, straight.
Well, the Sarah Jane Adventures was pretty popular.
Wasn't
that more of a children's thing?
But, like Paternoster gang, though, it's a lizard lady married to a human, a female.
Well,
exactly.
That's exactly
we need
what
that
children should see.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
But I could see the conservatives going,
Conservative. Oh, sorry. You ought to bleep that.
Gee, Mary, making me edit this podcast. It's always a good spot. But
I think you meant to say Beep the Meep the
right, Beep the Meep the conservatives.
But it'll be very interesting. But one of the rumors that's going around, and we were talking about it before we started, and it's like, this is too good to not talk about. And we usually don't touch on rumors on this, but this one's an interesting one. Ciarán, you want to talk about this one that you heard?
Yeah. So I heard. So I've been seeing it pop up. Someone said that at the end of the 3 specials, that the 14th Doctor, David Tennant, will regenerate into Ncuti Gatwa, but there'll be some sort of confluence of events where they sort of split in. They regenerate, but the 14th Doctor still exists. Which, I suppose if you look at it's happened before with the Metacrisis Doctor, and then there's the Watcher from Logopolis for fans of classic Who. So it's not totally outside the realm. But then the rumor goes on to say that it will be spinning off into its own series called Doctor Who Partners in Time, which is a play on Partners in Crime, the first episode of David Tennant and Donna that wasn't the Runaway Bride.
Yes.
And the image looks, as I've said to people before, as the image looks so convincing, either that or someone has done a really good job of making it look like they've taken a crappy photograph of an embargoed image, because it's got embargo written across it, and the image itself reminds me of, like, I think it was like a video game logo for Doctor Who a few years ago. It's all crystals and white and yellow. We'll see. If it's true that the 14th Doctor and Donna go off on their own, I already dislike that. I want to know what's going to go on in the specials, because I don't like the idea. As much as Donna and the Doctor are great together, Donna has a family now. Yeah. is Donna going to leave her husband and her daughter, and her mother? Although, admittedly, I think she should probably leave her mother behind.
Yeah, I think she can leave her mother, but I wonder actually if her daughter would go with her. Because I've
true.
heard some speculation about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, apparently, the poor hubby just gets to stay home.
Stay with the mother-in-law. Oh, that's pure hell. That's just mean right there. Yeah, but I don't know about that. And, I'm looking at the image right now. Let me share it with you guys. So that way we all can see it and everything.
And when he says you guys, he doesn't mean you listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
You audio listeners. Here's
if you can't see it, there's something wrong with you.
Close your eyes.
Just imagine, because literally they, can you see it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's it over on the right. But it looks fan made to me, truthfully.
Yeah, it could well be.
Yeah. But
again, like take everything with a silo of salt. So just
well, exactly. And we'll post it up on the SW Facebook group and everything so we can see it and everything. So, but I just don't want to see it happen. They've done it already. They gave Dr. Han to Rose, basically.
Yeah. They've
done that already. It's like, if that's going to be the case, I'd be kind of worried now about what's going to come, because if they're going to start rehashing again, and I don't want to see that.
Yeah, and what's going to happen to Shooty and Shooty's run?
Well, exactly.
How is that going to impact him, and is it going to take away from his seasons?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's one thing if you're if you're having adventures with past incarnations of the Doctor and their specials here and there. I mean, that's fine and that's great. Obviously we have that with Big Finish already, but but if we had that a live action version of it, it would be great to see our old favorites pop up again occasionally. But I think if you're going to have an actor play the Doctor, I think you need to make sure that that's the face of the franchise. And when I just feel like, if this is true, if this rumor is true, then it's something that the BBC, Disney Plus, and everybody, all the purse holders, the purse string holders, are saying, you need to do this because we don't have faith in Shooty.
Exactly.
We don't have faith in him. So just as a backup, if we could have, if we could have a Doctor who is more popular, one of the most popular Doctors ever, actors to play the Doctor ever. If we could have him, that would be great. And, and then Russell, you can do what you want with this, Shooty guy if you want, but, we need money, and David Tennant is going to give us money. We feel much more comfortable with that. I mean, it was bad enough that I think Jodie Whittaker's Doctor had Graham, sort of like as I know. Hey, if anybody says anything bad about Graham, they're gonna have to go through me first. All right. However, he was so good, he undermined and overshadowed the Doctor in a lot of ways, and I just don't want to see that happen on a level like that, on another level like this. It's just, Shooty's got an uphill battle as it is. I just don't want to see anything undermine that. And I feel like this, as much as I'd like to see it, and I'll watch it, don't get me wrong, I'll watch it. I just don't want to see that get undermined.
What if this was, and I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate and, bit of a thought experiment here. What if it was a limited series? What if we're talking like a 3-episode or an 8-episode limited series for these characters? And then also, would it make a difference if we had another Doctor Who spin-off with another Doctor, but it was a different Doctor? Say that this series was a series with Paul McGann's 8th Doctor. Would that make a difference?
Yes. because it's one thing to me it would, because it's one thing for it to be a past Doctor, but if you're talking about splitting the current Doctor into two beings, then you have to reconcile that, or are you going to continue it? Or are you going to, like, it just seems to me that says that we've got two faces of the company or the franchise rather than one. And so I think, if it's a special, then it should be like a past Doctor or something like that, but not run currently. Not to say that, we've got two Doctors now instead of one, and they're really the same being. I mean, there's some interesting story possibilities you have with that. I will say that you could do some interesting things with it. I know that when they, like, for example, when they split Crichton on Farscape for a season, that was just beautifully written and beautifully well done, and it was really well explored. And you could do something similar like that in Doctor Who. Like we always say, change is cool. Like they it's an ambitious storyline, go for it. But like I said, the logistics of it make me worry that it's being done for the wrong reasons.
No, I don't disagree with that. I completely don't disagree with that. Bring on Unit, bring on Paternoster Gang, or something else that we're not expecting. I just don't want to see.
I mean, look at all the people that were just freaking out because David was back, even though we all love David Tennant. I mean, most of us, but people were just like, oh my God, they don't even have faith enough in Ncuti to like have him start the franchise, the new show. It's going to have to be David first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also there's a big danger of them just kind of rehashing things they've already done.
Exactly.
In a scenario like that. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, then the writing's really got to be top notch to not just make it feel like a poor second to what you've already seen.
Exactly. And then they're going to be making Ncuti almost like a forgotten Doctor type thing. And that's what I worry about. And everything, there's image-wise and hearing about casting, I'm excited for Ncuti's Doctor. I'm excited for, even we got new images from the Christmas special. We get to see him in a kilt in the Christmas special, which is awesome.
And he looks good in a kilt.
Yes, he does.
Look good in a kilt. I was going to say, as far as Unit goes, rumors floating around about cast list. Freema Agyeman as Martha, apparently. Osgood, one of them, back. Also, Ruth Madeley, who's in the specials, is going to be in
cool.
Unit.
So that would be a nice addition because, they're bringing in, Unit for at least one or two of the stories.
Yes.
So.
Well, Kate, the one who plays Kate Stewart, whose name I've coincidentally forgotten. Gemma Redgrave. Thank you. I was going to list all of her, like her mother Vanessa, father Ralph, just listing all family members until I got to her. But she
it's
has
early
said,
there for him, folks. That's why.
She has said that she did. She had an interview a few weeks ago, and she said that she has only acted against David Tennant, not against Ncuti Gatwa. Now, Unit apparently appears in the new series with Ncuti Gatwa, but Kate Stewart only interacts with Millie Gibson's character. So that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Because I know Ruby Sunday actually is supposed to be a member of Unit, and that's how she gets hooked up with the Doctor.
Oh, I'd not heard that. That's interesting.
So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. So this is called Speculation Corner, not news, folks. So as it's becoming tonight, but it's been a ton of fun. So it's always great talking with you guys about this type of stuff. All right. I think we need to take a break and we'll come back in a minute and we will come back and talk about Beep the Meep. It'll be a ton of fun.
I love that Star Trek does what adventure programs do. It's fun characters going on adventures, wearing colorful outfits, but it tries to be more than that. It tries to say something more about humanity and tries to encourage us to be better people.
I love that it gives a really positive and really hopeful view of the future.
I like that you never know what you get with Trek, from Captain Pike to Picard to Captain Proton. I like the Ferengi.
Earth Station Trek, a show where we talk about Star Trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between.
All right, folks, now we are going back to 1980, and we are looking at the fine folks who did a wonderful, wonderful Doctor Who Weekly, and we are looking at The Star Beast. It was interesting because it first appeared February 1980, and they did an audio version of this.
They did indeed.
And exactly. So it's pretty awesome. And it was it was Tom's doctor, Doctor Number 4. And he had a new companion. And it was real interesting to read this because it's been quite a few years since I had. And I forgot how wicked the nice, innocent looking creature was in this.
Oh, man, this thing, it's dark.
Yeah,
the story is really dark.
That's why, I mean, story-wise, we have no idea. I mean, even though I think the episode, the first one of the specials is called The Star Beast, so we don't know if it's adapted the actual story, how much of the story is being adapted. But the fact that Beep is in it, and that's why we gave the spoiler warning, because right away we want to let people know that even though this furry little creature looks adorable, like Baby Yoda-esque, this is Doctor Who going for that demographic. It is insidiously evil, like
really bad.
Yeah, it is. This creature is a villain of the highest order.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's very typical of the comics, especially of that era, that he becomes bad because he's mutated by quote unquote black sun radiation.
Cosmic ray.
Yeah, how many times have you read or seen that?
Wait, they're turning all into the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. I think so. Rereading this and then going and having a bit of a look. So the first thing a new reader might get with this is you read it, it's like, oh yeah, two kids find an alien and then they go and hide it in their shed. And
it's
the first thing you think of, E.T.
Exactly.
This predates E.T. by 2 years.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Suck on that, Spielberg.
Got the idea from. He switched it up a little.
I always knew Spielberg was a Doctor Who fan, so it's a very good possibility.
We so rarely on this show get a chance to discuss the comics and in any sort of way, and this is really cool that we're able to do this. And one of the reasons is because I believe I've tried to do some checking on this, but I believe this is the first instance of a comic character being adapted into live action. So I know that Beep the Meep did appear in some Big Finish audios, and some other of the comic characters have appeared in some of the Big Finish audios. But this is the first time
Frobisher.
Yeah, please bring Frobisher to the TV
we're all
series.
Campaigning for Frobisher.
I want my CG penguin.
So this is in my opinion, this is a big deal. I mean, I was really excited a couple years ago when Book of Boba Fett in the Star Wars universe, the series Book of Boba Fett brought in a Wookiee bounty hunter named Kirstan, and that was the first time ever in Star Wars we had seen a comic book character come to life in live action. And that was pretty exciting. And so here where it's happening in Doctor Who, and I know that there's probably a lot of things you have to jump around as far as rights goes and who's got the copyright on this character or whatever. So I don't know how that all is playing out, but I'm glad that they're doing it because it gives more attention to the comics, which I always think is a good thing.
Well, this is the second time that Russell T Davies has adapted we'll call it like an expanded universe type story into the main canon. The first time being Human Nature in the Family of Blood, which was based on one of the 1990s Virgin New Adventures. Which, if you're a Doctor Who fan like currently, and you go and read the Virgin New Adventures, they are bleak. And they're really depressing. But I think the interesting thing about the Star Beast is the fact that it was originally a TV idea. They pitched it to the BBC in the 1980s, and it was knocked back. And so they turned it into a comic. And this is in the days when comic, like nowadays the BBC has a dedicated, well, I think it's actually in Wolf Studios now, has a dedicated office where people get queries from the like Titan Comics and Doctor Who magazine and Big Finish about storylines, whether they're allowed to do it, and everything has to be vetted. In the 1980s, they're just like, I'm just going to write a Doctor Who story in Doctor Who magazine, whether it fits in with the TV series or not. Let's just...
We don't care.
And that's the interesting thing about it is I could see Tom's doctor interacting with this creature.
Oh, yeah.
I heard Tom's voice the whole time through this. And it was even, Tom walking out of the TARDIS wearing a big sombrero and,
Hey, it's interesting that in this story, in the first 5 pages, K9 gets beheaded and the doctor's naked.
Yes.
Yes.
You didn't see Tom's doctor naked very often.
So I mean, that goes to tell you how loose the comics were as far as being able to tell stories that were not necessarily TV friendly. I mean, it's just wow. There's a lot going on here. But it still works. I mean, it still feels like a Doctor Who story. And I think that's why there's a lot of that's why I love things that draw attention to the comics, because they're so creative. There's so many really great stories there that I hope people will discover now. I mean, there's been Doctor Who comics almost as long as there's been Doctor Who. And unfortunately, the collections have been, scattered and few and far between. It's gone through a lot of different publishers and whatnot. So it's not like you can just go to Amazon or wherever you get buy books or whatever and just say I want to start with the first collection of Doctor Who comics and go from there, because it's quite frankly it's a mess. But some stories have been collected, some haven't. This has been collected and is available in I think 5 or 6 different formats.
Oh yeah.
So, you can find it.
Oh, very much so.
You can pick and choose. It's interesting that when the first time I read this was years and years and years ago. Mike, you and I were talking about this right before we went on air, but Marvel Comics thought they might have a hit. This is when they were doing licensed stuff, like bringing G.I. Joe and Godzilla and stuff into their comics. So they made a deal with the BBC as well as Doctor Who magazine to start reprinting Doctor Who strips. And so Doctor Who first premiered in a magazine called Marvel Premiere, which was reprinting some stories, 3 issues. And I think that did well enough. It wasn't like gangbusters, but it did well enough that they greenlit its own series for Marvel, but they were just doing reprints. They weren't doing new material. But that comic did not go to stands everywhere. This is not this wasn't just a normal comic you could just buy in the grocery store or anywhere like that. It was there's no ads in these comics. There's just, it's all just a premium format that was sold only to select bookstores and comic shops at the time. So even back then, it wasn't like Doctor Who was everywhere. You still had to hunt and find these things.
I think they were calling them Baxter runs at the time.
Something like that. Yeah. They were using a different kind of paper.
Yeah. It was a thicker paper and it was a higher quality.
And so somehow around that time period is when I started getting those issues, and that's when I first read this story. But and there's a lot of that run went on for a while, and then they just sort of petered out, and they didn't renew the license and everything. And then it took a while before, I don't think that we saw Doctor Who comics in the States until IDW, I think the license for a while. And that was with
7.
Yeah.
That was with New Who.
Yeah.
That was with New Who, and that was with the 10th Doctor.
Right.
But they did reprinted old ones. At the same time, it was weird. So IDW were reprinting classic Doctor Who comics from Panini, but Panini were doing it at the same time. Panini, who print it in the UK, who also print collectible stickers for people buying at home, they're owned by Marvel. They're entirely owned by Marvel. So Doctor Who magazine is a Marvel magazine. The Doctor Who comic strip is a Marvel comic strip. So Beep the Meep is a Marvel villain. So strictly speaking, I suppose could kind of end up in the MCU, but I don't want to.
There's a crossover opportunity.
It's possible through the Disney Plus thing. Maybe that's how it's able to, be there. I don't, like I said, I don't know behind the scenes. I'd be curious to know behind the scenes, like how all that works as far as licensing.
Because the Doctor actually made a crossover into one of the British Marvel comics, what's called Death Head.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
The Seventh Doctor was in that storyline and everything for a bit, and so it was pretty awesome to see, getting the Doctor, because Death's Head was a bounty hunter, a robot bounty hunter who was sent out to capture the Doctor, and I think it was a fun story. It was like I was able to get that through Diamond at the time, so it was pretty cool.
If they're going to start doing Doctor Who comic characters and spinning them off and bringing them out, I want an Absalom Dark series. Absalom Dark, Dalek Killer.
Yeah.
That's the best comic they ever made.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's a spin-off was that actually a Doctor Who spin-off, or was this a Terry Nation thing?
No, it was a Doctor Who spin-off because he turned up in the Nemesis of the Daleks in the Doctor Who magazine. So he spun off into his own book. But I think it was at the time when Terry Nation was kind of being a bit iffy with the rights, because he was trying to sell the Daleks to an American audience for their own series.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. And they thought the Americans would like that type of character in the series and everything, because there was talk about doing him live action and everything in the American series.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of there is a lot of problems where Doctor Who crosses over into America, which, not in any offense to any of you guys, like, have you heard what they were planning on doing after the movie? They were basically going to use Paul McGann and then just rewrite old Doctor Who stories set in America. Like,
that sounds like an American thing.
Yes,
like Talons of Weng Chiang done in Boston. Like,
God. I can believe that.
I just looked here, and interesting, because I was looking at something else here, and actually Absalom Dark has Dalek Killer has it just sounds cool to say that.
I know.
He actually did have a cameo in live action. He appeared in Doctor Who season 8, episode 5, Time Heist. His mugshot briefly appears.
I did. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
So we do have another instance of a comic character popping up it's really brief, and I don't know if it really counts, but I mean, he's there, so I mean, that's cool.
Well, it's the Easter eggs like that keep the fans hooked, isn't it?
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting, coming back to Star Beast, the Wraith Warriors look exactly like they just popped out of the comic page.
Yeah, I was so impressed when I saw the trailer and I saw that. I want to know what they're going to do about because one of the big things I keep pointing out in the comics is the Wrath Warriors' tongues that have like fingers on them, so they grab. Yeah. And again, I'm not sure. Does this predate Alien now? I need to double check that. Probably not.
No, I don't think so. Alien was 70s.
79, I think, with Alien. I think
90s. Yeah. So it's the year after. So you can tell where they got that from, I guess.
Yes.
I really hope they do that in the special, because I'd love to see how they do it.
It's more kid friendly having the tongue have fingers instead of it having another mouth on it. You know. So.
I mean, I have to say the comic is not particularly kid friendly.
No, not at all.
No,
whether
it's
they
not.
make the series kid friendly or not.
But you can see where they're basically you can see the framework of a story where they're just going to sort of just push that framework into the show. So, the fourth Doctor is going to be the 14th Doctor. The character of Ciarán is obviously going to be the character of Rose. They're going to just slot those characters in in those slots, and it'll be basically the same story.
You're fitting Donna somewhere into it also.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I mean, they need to try and they need to fit Donna in there somewhere. Look, I'm very keen for it. I'm being the Doctor Who nerd I am. Like, I want to talk about it. So I love that I get a chance to talk to people who know, because all my friends who like want to watch Doctor Who, they've never read the comics, and so I can't be like, you don't know what Beep the Meep's like. I can't tell you. I can't ruin the show for you.
Yeah.
Beep the Meep's a psychopath played by Miriam Margolyes.
Miriam Margolyes is
awesome.
Inspired casting. I mean, I did not associate her voice when I read this, of course, because I was rereading it, so I imagined something completely different. But thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, that works. I can definitely be on board with that.
I think it's pretty awesome. I think it's going to be great. The only thing I'm going to be very curious about, because you start finding out how really bad Beep is by his thoughts and everything, him having very evil thoughts,
it's very Shakespearean, isn't it?
Exactly.
Just talking to the audience, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is it going to be like Beep in the TV series? Is, Beep going to be like talking like Smeagol under his tongue and everything? Something
or
like
breaking the fourth wall. He'll turn to the camera.
But I like
The Office.
Exactly. They'll do an Office type thing, having like, a cutout where he's being filmed. I actually didn't really like these humans. They really were starting to get on my nerves, or something like that. It could work.
I think this story as well is very much, if you look at it self-contained, it's a great story, but if you look at it as part of the 3 specials, it is, I think Russell T Davies is very much trying to send a message of this, like, when he brought Doctor Who back, it was all about, if you look at his storylines, they're all basically self-referential. They're all talking about the stuff he's done before. But this is basically him going, all of Doctor Who is Doctor Who. Like, everything, like, this is not Classic Who and New Who anymore, or a new thing. It's all one show. And I think that's what he's trying to really show with this, because he's got a lot of callbacks. You've got the Toymaker coming in episode 3, the Giggle, and Starbeat in episode 1, and episode 2 he is keeping so secret because there is obviously something massive happening in episode 2.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he talked about that in his book, how he felt very constrained when he brought the show back, that the BBC really did not want him to refer back to older Doctor Who, because they thought it would turn off a new, younger audience. And so, I mean, he did slip it in here and there, and then as time went on and it became more popular, then he started doing more of that. But I think he's always regretted that he didn't get to play around with that more and make it more clear that I mean, and I agree, Doctor Who is Doctor Who in whatever form it takes. It's all part of the same universe.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to, you do run the danger, of course, by, being too much into yourself. So you don't want to like alienate new people. But on the other hand,
you mean like Star Wars?
Ouch.
But true.
I mean, both.
Wow.
You could argue that both Star Wars and the MCU have gotten to the point now where they are kind of doing that. But so yeah, we don't want to see Doctor Who start to do that as well. But yeah, I think there's a balance, and I mean, it's one of those things where, look, I mean, if people recognize Beep, then that's fine. For those people who don't, just make sure that it's accessible. And I'm glad they can, if I could see where, in the 80s, when during the John Nathan Turner years or whatever, that this would have been very difficult to pull off. So this is, seeing even now, it's going to be difficult to pull off. Right. I mean, yeah, we've seen a great, like I said, with, Grogu and Star Wars and whoever, like we've seen a lot of like CG characters, win people over. and become like merchandising things. But if that's what the BBC is hoping for here, I don't know if Beep's the one that
I'm not sure that's what they're really. I mean, they shouldn't be hoping for that.
Like I said, bean counters just look
Have
at
your
things
own
and
little
go,
furry homicidal maniac.
well, I mean, sure, why not? Like, I can see. I find it hard to believe that the market, the bean counters aren't looking at this going, hey, we can market this.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to market it.
Oh, you're going to see Beep
just not
stuffed
in
animals,
the same
I'm
way.
sure.
I mean, are we going to have the same saturation of merchandise we had in, say, 2011, when it was like at its peak? When there was TARDIS shaped literally everything. You had like Matt Smith slippers with little bow ties on them. Like, are we going to get to that point? Are we going to have Beep the Meep in various different sizes and shapes? Ones that talk, it's just like, bloop, bloop. Like
that's what they want.
Oh,
I mean,
I would.
yeah, I'm
if
sure
Disney's
that's
getting their hands on it, damn straight.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's randomizer. Which one it's going to say? Is it going to just be like beep beep, or is it going to like say, I'm going to like take out your arm?
It would be great if when he did it, the facial expression changed on the front of it.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as the specials go, like I love the Starbeast, I love Beep the Meep, I love what's coming with the Toy Maker. I'm hoping that somewhere in these specials that they try and at least have a bit of a nod towards Big Finish, like, because they're nodding towards the comics. I want them to sort of nod towards Big Finish a bit, because when you look at my main criticism of Chris Chibnall is the fact that he was basically like, my Doctor Who is the only Doctor Who. And Russell seems to be going the complete opposite to that.
Yeah, well, you see where that got Chris Chibnall.
Yes.
Wow, I think it's a big record for us. Like 50 minutes in until we until we
took us a while to bash Chris.
And it was me that did it. Oh no.
Full hour.
And it's all Karen's fault.
But I did it for the best reasons. It was in defense of Big Finish.
Hey, that's okay.
But yeah, I think I never did understand that with Chris Chibnall, why he was, and he's actually a fan of classic Who, so it surprised me when he made the big announcement about how he was basically going to ignore all of the rest of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
And that did not serve him well.
Nope.
No.
He's not a fan favorite, as we like to say.
No.
But it'll be very interesting to see. The comic was fun. It was a very quick read. I finished it probably about 20 minutes or so.
It's a decent story.
It was kind of interesting, though, because it's a Marvel comic. You got to see Stan Lee Presents.
Yes. Yes.
It's as far as it's not the greatest writing. Like, it's a great story. It's not the greatest writing in the world. No. The dialogue can be quite stilted. It's because it has to be done in because you got 3 pages of comics in a magazine or something, yes. And you had to then you had to cut them up and then do it over 6 issues or 8 issues. 8 issues.
I think it was 8 issues.
So it's some of the dialogue doesn't quite work, and the fact that you have to have 8 issues, and also because apparently it's the law, you need to have a cliffhanger at the end of each issue.
Well, duh,
Well, I mean, that to me is fine, because that's a Doctor Who serialized, storytelling tradition. So just like classic Who, right? Like I love good cliffhanger when it comes to Doctor Who. So
what's weird,
although these aren't really great cliffhangers, but
no.
On cliffhangers, I was watching a YouTube video about Doctor Who cliffhangers, and I didn't realize that in the US, so in the UK, the 6th Doctor's stories were transmitted as 45-minute episodes. In the US, they were transmitted as 22.5-minute episodes. So they just cut it in the middle, and so you guys have got these really harsh, really, really bad cliffhangers. I was like, that must have been so weird watching that in the 80s, being like, what just happened?
Well, I can make lots of comments about the Sixth Doctor era anyway. That's a whole nother episode right there. But it was just interesting. But yeah, folks, this is worth reading. And it's fun. It's like we've said, it's not hard to find. You could probably even find it online in like PDF format somewhere, I'm sure.
Internet Archive, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But it is dark, and there is, say, medical body horror in it, even.
Oh, yes.
So...
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
that is true.
The doctor has an upset stomach because he has a bomb planted in his belly.
I love the casualness. It's like, I have a bomb inside me.
He runs
oh, well.
I need to go get some lead. I need to wear lead for the rest of this story.
Exactly. And it's just like, well, he just doesn't want Superman's X-ray vision to, look through his belly or something. So, but yeah, it was fun. And you know what, folks? If it's half as fun as the comic was, the story that we're going to get next month is going to be great. And it's probably going to be even more so because there's going to be even more spinning wheels with it.
Yeah, my big hope is that people aren't going to be like, "Hey, this is like this must have been one of the best comic stories, so that's why they adapted it." It's like there are a lot better comic stories than this.
Yeah,
but it's a fine comic story. It's
fun.
It's fun for what it is.
It's fun for what it is. It's interesting, and it doesn't linger. It's just 2 issues, or at least in my case, it's pretty short. In fact, they had plenty of in these issues that I have. They had plenty of padding material for other like short stories of the Daleks and the Cybermen and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very short read. I would, as a comic guy, I would suggest not trying to get it online for free. I would suggest supporting a comic shop or a comic book store or something and buying it.
If you can find it in stock.
Yeah,
if you can find it in
it's
stock.
actually really hard. I originally went when I was looking for the one for Mary. I went into Titan, and they usually can get anything. Those books are right now out of print.
But I mean, you can search secondary places. I mean, eBay and them. There were tons of options.
I got it off of eBay for and it was like $5-6. It was
even the original issues. If you guys want to do a deep dive, they're not that expensive. They're pretty reasonable. For comics that are almost 50 years old. Goodness gracious, how old am I? Like 40, 50 years old. I'm that you can get them. They're not that expensive. If you want to get a collection of that, they're out there. I know that.
Only 43 years old. Come on.
43.
Only.
Okay. Well, only. Goodness gracious me. But and there's plenty of great stories where these came from. So and a lot of them were done by people who went on to do really, really great work. The really
artist on this was Dave
behind
Gibbons.
Yeah, Dave Gibbons is amazing in this.
Dave Gibbons, yes. Written by Pat Mills and John Wagner originally, and Grant Morrison has a run on the comics for a while. A lot of great British writers have. I don't think Neil ever did, which is weird. So I can't, that just boggles my mind that Neil Gaiman never wrote a Doctor Who comic story. I'm like, how does that not happen?
Yeah, that is surprising.
He was kind of busy writing, things about angels and demons and, a guy named Morpheus,
I can't, there's no excuse.
No.
How dare you, Neil?
Damn it, Neil.
There's no excuse. So I mean, that still could happen,
Exactly.
But,
so definitely.
Well, he's just said he wants to go back to writing. He's he reckons that after the season 3 of Good Omens, he's done with show running. He just wants to be a person who just sits and writes books and comics and poetry, he said.
Yep.
A Doctor Who graphic novel from Neil Gaiman, that's just printing money, right? I mean, I don't see why anybody like that. Who doesn't want that?
Nope, exactly. So, folks, it'll be tons of fun to look at and everything. But I don't think it's even necessary to rate this one and everything. Just check it out, folks. It's a ton of fun. So, that is going to wrap up this fun episode of our Station Who. We were all over the place, folks. We totally were. And I want to thank everyone. Ciarán, thank you, my dear friend.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here as usual.
Always great to have you. And you want to promote your stuff real quick?
So I'm on Instagram at MK3 Vocal Machine, and pzinner.com.au, and I hate to promote it in the middle of your show, but I've got my own Doctor Who podcast coming out soon. It's grown very, very quickly. It's all about looking at each individual story of the Master across all media. So yeah, that's going to come out soon. It's called cool. Please Attend Carefully.
That would be awesome. It's cool because there's so many incarnations of the Master, not only on TV, but in the comics, the book, and of course, Big Finish. Oof.
And the ones that people argue about, like, for example, for big Classic Who fans out there, is the War Chief from the War Games an incarnation of the Master? Mm-hmm. That is an argument that apparently has been raging for the last 50 years.
Well, also the Madeline Monk, also.
Well, yes, that was an argument for a very long time. I think Big Finish has given him his own life, and her own life, because there's also a female incarnation of the monk now, who is the nun.
The nun.
But yeah,
exactly. Well, thank you, and
thank you so much,
Mary Ogle. Thank you as always.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed this one. I don't get to read the comics a lot, and so it was really nice to kind of dive back into that world.
Yes, and so. Anything you want to promote, like your website and such, or your artwork?
You can find my artwork at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Awesome. And Mr. Mike Gordon, you have a Comic-Con coming up that you're going to be a track director at.
Yeah, it's Monsterama. It's at the end of the month of October, the 27th through the 29th. It's I am not set up there, although Peter will be set up there for selling all things Tiki Zombie and everything like that. And it's more than just comics. It's retro, sci-fi, fantasy, horror. Nicholas Meyer, director of Star Trek II, among many, many other things, is the main highlighted guest. There's also plenty of other celebrities there too. It's going to be a lot of fun time. And yes, I am in charge of programming for the literature, art, and comics track. And we've got some really, really, really awesome programming coming your way. So check it out, Monsterama. I think it's monsteramacon.com or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to get the website. I'll put it on the show notes.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us for this hot mess tonight. It was a ton of fun. We will see you all next time. You could always find us feedback at ourstationwho.com, and of course the wonderful Facebook group that we have going on. And you know what? I just posted that cover that we were talking about at the beginning of the show. So you know what? Partners in Time. Is it going to be a real thing or not?
Let the debate start.
Oh yeah. All right, folks. We'll see you soon. Peace, and we are done. Ciao, everybody.
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.